There are phrases that we grow up hearing, such as no new friends, same yesterday, today, and forever. That's only for Jesus, by the way. Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Once again, this is a space that is created to be of service to people and to be able to add value. So thank you for taking the time to watch today. If you've been watching my last few videos, I launched my channel talking about purpose and passion, finding that, trying to be that, trying to be intentional about finding one's purpose and passion. And today, I want to talk about the fact that nobody is you, and that is your superpower. I feel like this particular topic is very sensitive to me because it's a work in progress in my life. And I think it's a work in progress in most people's lives. So take whatever I share today with a grain of salt. It's possible that you already know a lot of the things that I'm talking about, but I'm hoping again that it'll add value to you and to your journey. So the first point I want to talk about is it could take forever to identify who you are as an entrepreneur and who you are in your own superpower, and that's okay. I know people who discover their value at 50. I know people who discover their lanes at 40. In an ideal world, obviously it will be great to be able to find our purpose early on in life so that we can make sure we're driving in that direction, but things don't always happen the way we want them to happen. So be gentle with yourself, give yourself grace in knowing who you are, and give yourself grace in those moments where you compare yourself to people, or you don't necessarily find your power, or you're not sure about where you stand out. So that's the first point. The second point is thinking of how does your identity and not knowing you or knowing who you are stop you from becoming the right entrepreneur. So with this one, basically what I'm trying to share is knowing who you are, knowing your superpower is connected to being successful at whatever you choose to do as an entrepreneur or as a businesswoman. And so I think it's so important to realize that knowing who you are is actually tied to what you become as an entrepreneur. There's a lot of people who are in businesses where they don't necessarily feel like they belong, but it's successful for them, and that's a great thing. But for some of us, for us to be able to maintain our grit while we're in a particular job or a particular role, we obviously need to also feel like we know who we are and we're confident in the fact that we can deliver what's expected of us. So that's just another point. The third point I want to talk about today in knowing who you are and how that is a superpower is allowing yourself to evolve as much as possible. There are phrases that we grow up hearing, such as no new friends, same yesterday, today, and forever. That's only for Jesus, by the way. Phrases like, I'm the same person, I haven't changed, I'm consistent. It's a good thing to be consistent in the right things, but if you think about it, if you are 30 and you're the same as you were when you were 20, something is missing. So a lot of people are so grounded in proving that they're the same person they were when you met them, but there's actually beauty in evolving. There's beauty in change. There's beauty in being a different person next year, especially if it's for the betterment of yourself and for those around you. So I just want to encourage you with this particular point to know that it's okay to allow yourself to evolve. It makes me think about when women change, when our bodies change, and we almost feel like we want that old girl back. But it's like, what if the new girl has something for you that the old girl didn't? What if the new girl actually comes with a different presence that the old girl didn't? So being able to allow yourself to evolve as much as possible is a really big point. The next point I want to talk about is allowing yourself to embrace who you are at every stage of life. And what that is, when we talk of like body image, we talk of like changes that happen at every stage of our lives. Like some of us were super skinny in high school, and then when we get older, we look so different. It's like, is this the same person? And what I want to speak to there is it's so important to be able to like embrace the new you instead of spending the time trying to be the old you, right? It's linked to the topic I just talked about. And the reason why I share this is sometimes we're missing out on who we are today because we're longing for the girl that we were yesterday, right? And you're spending the time longing for who you were, and you're missing out on what today has for you. I know I sound like I'm repeating myself, but it's a big deal, and I think a lot of us women struggle with it. And it would amaze you how that shows up in evolving as an entrepreneur. It shows up in being able to drop a business that is not successful and picking up one that is for yourself. So the next point I want to talk about is listening to the thing that used to work for you, but listening to the thing that used to work for you, but it no longer works for you in this current time in your life. And the reason I bring that up is, I'll give you an example. I told you guys about how I used to have a food blog, right? And at the time, at that season in my life, that's what drove me, that's what pushed me, that's what motivated me to do something on the side. That was my creative outlet. And in present time, I do not even cook as much as I thought I would be. I still know how to make all the recipes. I still know what is required of me in the kitchen, but that doesn't drive me anymore. And then there was a period where I was doing designing and I was so into fashion. I still am into fashion, but I'm not into the display of fashion, right? I'm not out there being a stylist or taking photos and being a content creator in the fashion space. And so I feel like sometimes as women, we hug things that used to work for us, maybe because it made us feel great at the time, or because we're scared that there's nothing more to us. And I feel like part of having your superpower is listening to what's great in your season today. It's okay if something that you were great at before, you're no longer great at, or it's no longer your superpower. That's completely fine. But I think sticking to being so tied to things that used to serve us prevents us from discovering our true superpower, right? Because also when you're younger, maybe I was into fashion because it was trendy at the time. Maybe I wanted to be a fashion blogger because I went into it because I saw somebody else doing it and I was peer pressured to do it. And I think sometimes we get stuck in something and we forget how we even got into it, and we forget that it wasn't even something that came from us naturally. So what I'm saying is, it's so important to make sure that if you're giving something your energy, focusing on it, zoning on it, it's so important to make sure that it's still serving you today. It's still something that makes your soul spark, and it's still something that is your superpower, so you're not ignoring your superpower in the current time. The next point I want to talk about is your uniqueness. There's no way to talk about this without going into my Bible speak and my Christian background and foundation. The Bible says we're like all made in the image of Christ, but it also says God knows the hair on our heads, and He knows the end from the beginning, and He knows each of our stories, and He knows our journeys. And even when twins come out of the womb, there's something that differentiates them. So I think it's so important that I understand it's human character, it's human to want to compare ourselves, ourselves to other people. It's human to want to measure ourselves and use other people as our benchmark so that we can know where we stand. But I think in the midst of all of that, in the midst of all that noise, in the midst of social media, current times, how busy it is in our worlds, we should never forget that we're unique in our own ways. Even when you're in the same lane as someone, we all took O levels. If you grew up in Africa, we all took A levels, but we all had different certificates. We all studied the same thing. We had the same teachers in class. For those who were in the same class, we had the same teachers. We had the same meals every day. So you can both be designers, you can both be stylists, you can both be content creators, you can both be business owners, you can both have schools and still be unique in your own right. And I think a lot of times we lean into what other people are doing instead of leaning into our uniqueness. And if you lean into your uniqueness more, you're able to discover other things that your mind can give you. You're able to discover other things that you can grow within yourself. When we lean into other people's uniqueness, we're basically picking up on what they're doing and guiding our life by their own actions, right? It's like somebody did this yesterday, so I'm gonna do it. It's like I saw this on IG, so I'm gonna do it as well. And then when you don't see anything that motivates you, how do you keep going? But if you're leaning into your uniqueness, and yes, expose yourself, educate yourself, learn from other people, but if you lean into your uniqueness, you're able to actually listen to the things that make your heart spark. You're able to move at the pace, move to the beat of your own drum. That's what I was trying to say. You're able to move to the beat of your own drum, right? So that's a really important one. Remember, the topic for today is nobody is you, and that is your superpower. So the next thing I want to talk about is, before I even move forward, your uniqueness is also tied to the different stages of life. As I shared earlier, it's like what makes you unique at 10 is not what will make you unique at 20. So it's important. I feel like as human beings, we spend so much time building relationships with people. That's if we can, or just hopping from one friendship relationship to another, or just investing in growing our bank accounts, growing our entrepreneurial portfolios, growing our maintaining our bodies, our physical appearance, but we don't spend enough time building a relationship with ourselves, with what we want, with our brains, with our thoughts and things like that. And I think it's so important. So again, I told you guys I ramble, so we're working on it together. We're working on it. So the next point is, I just want to say, knowing who you are. The next point is knowing that nobody is you, and that is your superpower. Is when you find that thing that makes you soar, it shows up in everything you do. For me, I think it's like efficiency and order. Like, I like order. I know it's, I just like things to be straight. So, and I like to be efficient. So that shows up in everything I do, except where I'm highly flawed, which we'll talk about another time. But in areas where I'm highly flawed is a stretch for me. But in everything else, you will find that I pull to what makes me unique, which is efficiency. It shows up every single time. It shows up in how I cook. It shows up in how I work at the office. It shows up in how I plan things with friends. It shows up in every single thing, right? And that's also because I'm lucky at this stage in my life. I've discovered that, hold up, that's actually a strength, not a weakness. The next thing I want to point out, a lot of times, sometimes the world could tell you that your superpower is a weakness and not a strength. So you really have to ask yourself, when you do identify who you are and how your uniqueness, your superpower, you need to make sure that you're listening to the right voices in identifying what that is about you, right? Somebody else could use it as, maybe people refer to you and they refer to your superpower or your uniqueness as something negative. But if you take some time to do that self-connect, you might find that that thing is something that can blossom into something beneficial for you, and it's something that you can actually use to serve you as a superpower. Of course, I'm not talking about negative things that actually hurt people. That's neither here nor there. So yeah, the phrase "nobody is you" and that is your superpower is something that is very near and dear to my heart, and I try to remember it as much as I can, because I feel like the world is saturated now with themes and following. I think the word followers is probably the most popular word right now in our universe, and it's like TDJ just released a book. So the last thing I want to say is your traits, your talents, your qualities that make you who you are cannot be replicated by anyone else. They can do the same thing, but it won't be the same because it's them and it's not you. And I think that that's so important to remember. Remember that everything that you do sets you apart. Even when you do something bad, if somebody does it too, it sets you apart from the crowd. And in a world where people just are constantly comparing each other, constantly feeling the need to conform to current times, it's okay to be you and to embrace it. I think now more than ever, it's so fine and so important to embrace who we are, because the world is full of a lot of uniform, right? Every time that we recognize and we celebrate our individualities and we tap into those unique abilities, those unique strengths, those unique things that make us stand out, I think we still can achieve the personal fulfillment, success in entrepreneurship, fulfilling our goals, being able to feel like we own our lives. We're not going by somebody else's beat of their drum. So yeah, topic for today was nobody is you and that is your superpower. I hope that this encourages you today to lean into your uniqueness and stop leaning into trying to be like other people. I hope it encourages you today to know that the more you lean in within, the more you'll be able to tap into those things that make your heart soar, tap into those things that feel natural to you, tap into your purpose, tap into your passion. And it's like one thing is connected to another, right? Because once you find what you're passionate at, your business or your entrepreneurship journey can naturally flow from there. And for a lot of people, honestly, the idea of talking to yourself sounds crazy. The idea of being so I don't know, it's like a positive way of being self-centered, if you don't mind me saying. But the idea of doing that sounds so daunting. And this is where I'll say, tap into what's bigger than you. What do you consider bigger than you in your life? And for me, for example, it's my faith, right? So in a situation like this, when I'm looking for better, I'm just like, God, like, what did you do? What did you make about me that was unique? What should I be looking for? What is the thing that you've given me on earth to find purpose in? And this is for my Christians in the room. If you're not a Christian, hey, you can still learn what I'm about to say. If you're not a Christian, just listen. It might still touch you, but my Christians will understand. For the Christians in the room, I also think that a lot of times we feel that we can, what's the word I'm looking for? We can serve in the body of Christ, right? And maybe that's our passion and our purpose. But a lot of the talents that we have that do not take place in the body of Christ, within the church, can also positively affect people's lives, can also positively be our own fruit of the Spirit. It can be our own ministry. That's the word I'm looking for. And I do intend to do a video based on how entrepreneurship and ministry can connect, and just how we can all show up different in every stage of our lives. So thank you for spending time with me today again. I hope that this video blessed you. I hope that you feel encouraged today. There's nothing wrong with you. Whatever stage of life you're in, it's okay. Embrace it. Embrace this stage. Work through whatever you need to work through so that you come out better on the other side. Embrace this stage so that you're able to discover who you are at this stage of your life, and you're able to feel like you still bring something to the table regardless of what you're going through. And yeah, I hope that I want to hear from you guys, everybody. Like, comment below if you have any thoughts about this. What stage of life do you think you're in? What differences or changes have you seen in your life in different stages? How do you feel about your uniqueness? As a matter of fact, I would love to hear what you think is unique about you in the comment below. That's how we network, guys. Comment below. And for those who haven't yet, feel free to download my free purpose and passion assessment. It's also in the link below, and I'll see you next time. Remember, stay in service. The world needs you.